How often do we feel the weight of worry pressing on our chests, the anxiety about our jobs, our families, our future? We live in a world where Rizq, our provision, our sustenance, feels like a constant chase. We work tirelessly, we plan, we strive, and yet sometimes the doors seem closed. We feel a spiritual dryness, as if our connection to the ultimate provider is distant. And then we hear a whisper, 99% of Muslims don't know this surah unlocks rizq instantly. It sounds like a secret, a hidden treasure map, and it sparks a mix of hope and curiosity. Is it true? Is there really an instant switch? Let me tell you something profound, the treasure is real. But the key isn't in a secret known only to 1%. The key is in a truth neglected by 99%. Imagine for a moment the quiet hum of your own worries. Not the loud crashing fears that come and go in a crisis, but the constant low frequency buzz that lives in the background of a striving heart. It's the mental calculation at the grocery checkout, the glance at a bank balance, the silent prayer for a child's future tuition, the knot in your stomach when an unexpected bill arrives. This is the modern landscape of Rizq, a word so profound in our faith, encompassing not just wealth, but every morsel of provision, every breath of opportunity, every thread of well-being that Allah in His infinite wisdom apportions to His creation. We chase it, we plot for it, we lie awake strategizing for it. We have turned sustenance into a frantic equation of hustle and anxiety, as if the source of all giving were a distant, reluctant entity, and we must somehow wrestle our share from a closed fist. And in this state of spiritual fatigue, where our trust sometimes wears thinner than our ambitions, we stumble across a promise that feels almost too good to be true. A title, bold and captivating, floats across our screen. Farhan, 99% of Muslims don't know this surah unlocks rizq instantly. It stops the scroll. For a heartbeat, the background buzz of worry is replaced by a piercing spike of hope. Instantly. The word itself is a bomb. It suggests a shortcut, a secret passageway through the labyrinth of struggle, a divine cheat code known only to a privileged few. It whispers of a hidden lever in the universe, a specific combination of Arabic verses that, when uttered, clicks open the vaults of heaven, causing blessings to rain down in a tangible, immediate shower. The mind, weary from the long road, cannot help but be seduced by the possibility of an express lane. This is where the critical junction lies. This tantalizing hook, this promise of an instant unlock, is not a deception, but it is perhaps the most profound misunderstanding in our spiritual economy, a misunderstanding that 99% might indeed fall into. We hear instant, and our minds, conditioned by a world of on-demand everything, construct a material fantasy. We imagine the sudden job offer, the unexpected windfall, the debt that vanishes overnight. We reduce the majestic, all-encompassing concept of rizq to a crude deposit of currency. And in doing so, we risk missing the genuine, transformative, and yes, an instantaneous miracle that is actually being offered. Let me tell you something profound. The treasure map is authentic. The vault is real. But the key does not turn in the lock of a worldly treasury. It turns in the heart. The instant the first verse of that surah, often as the traditions guide us, Surah al-Waqiyah, the inevitable event, leaves your lips with presence of mind, a subtle but powerful shift begins. It is not an external shift in your circumstances, not at first. It is an internal seismic reorientation of your very perception. The instant unlock is the sudden, jarring, and liberating moment when the scales fall from your spiritual eyes. What happens in that instant? The recitation begins by dragging you with cosmic force to the plane of resurrection. When the inevitable event occurs, it thunders. None can deny its occurrence. You are abruptly pulled from the petty anxieties of your bank account and placed before the reality of the final day. You are shown humanity divided into three ledgers, the foremost, those brought near to Allah, the companions of the right, and the doomed companions of the left. In a heartbeat, your personal definition of wealth is shattered. Your crisis is reframed not as a lack of money, but as a potential poverty of station on that terrible, magnificent day. And then, just as swiftly, the surah opens the gates of paradise for your heart to wander. It describes fruits that are never out of reach, shade that is perpetual, couches lined with rich brocade, and companions of beautiful, modest gaze. It speaks of a cup from a flowing spring that causes no headache or intoxication, of fruits they choose and meat of fowl they desire. Do you see what happens instantly in that moment of true recitation? Your soul is given a tour of the ultimate, eternal Rizq. You are shown the end goal of all provision, not a bigger house here, but a palace there. Not a fancier car, but rivers of milk and honey. Not temporal praise, but the pleasure of the divine countenance. And in the brilliant, blinding light of that eternal wealth, the dim struggles of your worldly life are cast in a new, merciful shadow. You look from the page describing the fruits of Jannah to the simple apple in your kitchen, and instead of seeing lack, you see a gift. A direct, tangible connection between the generous king and you, his servant. Gratitude. Shukra isn't a slow burning emotion you have to cultivate. It erupts, instant and spontaneous, from the creator of that comparison. You say Alhamdulillah, and for the first time in a long time, you mean it in the very marrow of your bones. Your heart, which was a clenched fist of worry, has been instantly unlocked into an open palm of thankfulness. And Allah Himself has promised, if you are grateful, I will surely increase you. The increase begins at that precise second within you. This is the secret the 1% understand. The constant unlock is not of doors in the world, but of a door in your soul. It is the instantaneous trade of the poverty of anxiety for the wealth of trust. It is the immediate exchange of a narrow focus on the S means of provision for a vast, awe-struck focus on the Das source of all provision, Al-Razzaq. When you stand or sit in the quiet of the night and engage with this divine reminder, you are not performing a magical incantation. You are performing the ultimate act of spiritual realignment. You are showing up at the door of the Most High and saying, my Lord, I am here. I am remembering your ultimate promise. I am anchoring my heart not to the sinking sands of this world, but to the unshakable reality of the next. And in that instant of sincere showing up, you have positioned yourself directly under the descending mercy of Allah. The rest, the how, the when, the form of your worldly sustenance becomes a matter of His perfect wise decree. Your job is not to orchestrate the provision. Your job is to tend to the connection. The provision then flows not as a reluctant trickle from a tapped out source, but as a natural, inevitable consequence of a heart that is finally, instantly home. Consider the architecture of a prison. Its most formidable walls are not made of stone or steel, but of perception. A man who believes he is confined is truly confined, even if the door stands open. Our anxiety about the Rizq, that all-encompassing divine provision, often constructs just such a prison around our hearts. We peer through the bars of our immediate circumstances, seeing only limitations, scarcity, and closed doors. We measure our lives in deficits, what we lack, what we fear to lose, the distance between our reality and our aspirations. This state of lack, this spiritual poverty, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, coloring our world in shades of worry and constriction. It narrows our vision, tightens our chest, and convinces us that the universe is a closed system of fierce competition for limited resources. Now, imagine a key being slid into the lock of that perceptual prison, not a key that shatters the walls with explosive force, but one that turns with a soft, definitive click, revealing that the most confining barrier was in fact a door, and it was never truly locked from the outside. This is the second instant unlock offered by the profound engagement with a surah like Al-Waqi, the instantaneous ignition of Hasan Yaqeen, certainty, the unshakable bedrock conviction in the promises of Allah. This is not the passive, abstract belief we claim in times of ease. This is the living, breathing, operational certainty that becomes the very lens through which you interpret your existence. How does this ignition happen? The surah does not offer gentle philosophical arguments. It delivers cosmic truth with the force of a hammer upon the anvil of the heart. It begins not with a whisper of comfort, but with the tectonic declaration of the day of judgment, the event that makes a mockery of all human power and planning. It forces you to confront the ultimate reality, check everything, every system you rely on, every market that booms and busts will be utterly obliterated in a single divine breath. In the face of that cataclysm, your rent, your career ladder, your 5-year plan, what are they? They are exposed as the fleeting, ephemeral concerns they truly are. This is not meant to belittle your struggles, but to place them within the correct awe-inspiring frame of the divine canvas. Then, the surah performs its masterstroke. Immediately after establishing Allah's absolute power, to bring about the unseen greatest event, it directs your gaze to the evidence of His power and provision that surrounds you here and now. Then consider the rain you send down from the sky. Is it you who brought it down, or are we the sender? The shift is jarring and beautiful. From the eschatological horizon, you are snapped back to the miracle of a falling raindrop. And consider the seed that you sow. Is it you who make it grow, or are we the grower? You are guided to see the ordinary as the extraordinary signature of Al-Razzaq. The water you drink, the plant that breaks the soil, the fire you strike from wood. Each is presented not as a random occurrence of a neutral nature, but as a direct, deliberate, and personal act of giving from your Lord. This is where the lock turns. The instant unlock of certainty occurs in the space between those two visions, the unimaginable power to resurrect all of creation, and the intimate, detailed care in crafting a single blade of grass. If this, the mind-shattering complexity of a universe, the perfect balance of ecosystems, the miracle of your own beating heart, is the work of His hand, then is your salary, your next meal, the solution to your problem, in any way difficult for Him? The question hangs in the air of your consciousness, and with it, the absurdity of your anxiety is laid bare. Your worry is a form of myopia, forgetting of scale. You have been staring at a closed door so intently that you have forgotten you are standing in the palace of the King who owns all keys. This ignited yaqeen is not a theoretical concept. It is a kinetic force that alters your entire psychological and spiritual posture. Before, your trust was in your own effort, your network, your plan, with a hesitant prayer appended at the end. Now, your trust is primordially in Allah. With your effort, your network, and your plan becoming mere as tools you wield in submission to His will, trusting He will direct them as He sees fit. The burden lifts. Not the burden of responsibility, but the crushing burden of thinking the ultimate outcome rests on your shoulders alone. You work, but you are not tyrannized by the results, for you know the results are authored by a wisdom far greater than your own. This certainty is what turns a Muslim from a beggar at the door of the world into a confident, dignified guest at the table of the most generous. A beggar knocks with desperation, his happiness contingent on the whim of the one behind the door. A guest arrives with trust, with the serene expectation that the host who invited him has already prepared what is best for him. Instant unlock is this transition from the anxiety of the beggar to the tranquil expectancy of the honored guest. It happens in the moment your recitation connects the cosmic power of the resurrection to the personal provision of the rain. You realize your Rizq is not a commodity to be scraped from a scarce world. It is a preordained, perfectly timed, divinely delivered package, traveling to you through the channels Allah decrees. Your task is not to create the provision, only Allah creates. Your task is to seek it with integrity and effort, along the pathways He has made lawful, while your heart remains in a state of serene certainty, anchored not to the shifting waves of the market, but to the unmovable throne of the provider. When you close the Mus'haf after that recitation, you do not close a book of wishes, you have just finished a direct communication from the manager of all affairs. And you walk into your world not with the hope that things might work out, but with the certainty that He is already arranging them in the way that is ultimately and perfectly for your good.